Hello and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing. Very special morning briefing because while I'm stuck here in dry, I'm not even sure it's that dry, wet, drab, Dreich, Glasgow. These two are in Seville in their lovely pad in, I would say suburban Seville. Is that fair? It's sort of 20 minutes from the centre, guys.
Yeah, we're in with the locals, Johnny, which is quite nice. So it's exposing our lack of Spanish,
Yes,
which is
there are
always
not that many
embarrassing.
people around there that are speaking English.
No. Well, it's always embarrassing when you go up and try and order something and you don't even have the basics to try and get a coffee. But nonetheless,
is it not quite easy though? Is it not just dos cervezas, por favor?
Yes, pretty much. And gracias, amigo.
Not from me.
I mean, how much do you need?
Great. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful city, we're just very excited for the game now, I think, aren't we?
Yeah, we just came inside, Johnny. I posted a little picture earlier on. I set up outside, cracking rooftop terrace, of course, but there's some building work going on, so I thought it best to come inside. But come the special hour-long show tonight, we should be okay for going back outside. So we're in our humble abode inside.
Yes, right. Before we get going, let's just have a quick chat about our sponsor. We are sponsored by OneFootball, which is a terrific app that gives you pretty much everything you need. It's a one-stop shop for anything football related. If you're wanting to get the scores as they happen, then you are in the right place with OneFootball. You can, of course, not just get Scottish games, you can get any games. So if you're a Manchester United fan, a Real Madrid fan, or goodness knows, even a fan of a team in Cyprus or in Bulgaria, you can get the results as they happen on this app. On top of that, you can get all the news from that team. As you can see there, you've got Rangers news, and you can keep in touch with everything that's happening at every individual team. You can star your favourite teams so you can follow exactly what's happening, and that comes directly to you via notifications. It's top stuff. We've all downloaded it, and I have to say it's absolutely fantastic to use. Guys, we've done our sponsorship bit. Now it's time to get into the red meat of today. Obviously,
I think it's an apology first, Johnny. Adam Thornton was tuning in looking for a shower live stream. So apologies for that the cold tap isn't working, Adam. So we'll try and get that sorted for tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to note that shower doesn't work on our terrace. Yeah. It does not work. So anyone that's hoping to pop in, see the lads, borrow the shower, it doesn't work. So you're struggling. Now, listen, what do we talk about, guys? Because there's only one thing that anyone's thinking about right now, and it's travelling to Seville. In terms of today, guys, Derek, you're actually going out to visit both stadiums, aren't you? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I'm going to head out to where the game is being played, just do a little walk around a wee Facebook Live or what have you, just to show you the sights in and around the stadium and what supporters that are lucky enough to attend the game can expect when they head up there on Wednesday. And I also plan to head to the other ground where they're showing the game, of course, on the big screens. I think I passed it in the taxi from the airport heading up, and it looked like there was some sort of theme park or water park next to it. So I'm going to head up that way just to see what supporters can expect again when they're heading over that way in terms of bars or little shops, amenities, that sort of thing, and hopefully speak to a few locals when I head up there. So heading to the two grounds this afternoon to give you an idea of what to expect.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, we've got Curry Muncher coming back with Behave Adam. There's no way we're prepared to see Dell's white bits early in the morning. And that I'll definitely second that. Adam's saying he will be joining in tomorrow. Well, let's keep your powder dry on that one, son. The day is young. Why is Joshua drinking water? Come on. Josh, he's got a point. It is 10:30. It's more than acceptable to be cracking open those beers. But you do have a bit of work to do today, so I think actually that's probably not the best idea. Morning, guys. You two sobered up. Yes, you did seem a little polished last night. I've got to be honest.
Honestly, I honestly had 2 beers, but I've been traveling since 3, so I felt it did feel like maybe a little bit more. But anyone who's done that trip over in the Spanish heat will know it. it puts a few hours on you, doesn't it?
Just drunk on Seville, I think, Johnny.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important point, actually, guys, especially for guys coming in. Is just to be careful with the booze, because a combination of the tiredness of the travel. If you're coming in on Wednesday, a combination of the tiredness of the travel, the booze, and the heat is quite a it's a combination. I'm imagining you slept like a baby last night, Josh.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And then up having a little coffee on the terrace. It's been very nice.
Fantastic.
It's almost as if there's a game in 2 days, but I'm looking forward to watching a bit more of Frankfurt today, amongst other things. So Derek gets to do all the fun bits, and I'll be staring at a screen.
You'll be stuck in the room, but you never know. If you get your work done quickly, you can get out and enjoy the sunshine, have a wee wander around. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Rangers fans actually arriving today. I know yesterday there wasn't too many floating about. There was the odd one here and there, but I think today you'll really start to see that ramp up. And obviously tomorrow and then certainly Wednesday, it will be absolutely crazy in terms of the volumes of people that are coming in. Obviously, guys, keep your questions coming. There's lots to talk about. We're going to go straight into one from the Curry Muncher. And he's saying, Josh, what did you get from the Ramsey interview when you asked about his future? Any giveaways from what he said and his body language? Now, listen, that video, if you want to watch and get an idea, is up on our YouTube channel. So fire into that. Josh, you were there. You were talking to Aaron Ramsey. What did you make of what you had to say?
I don't think you get... I was actually speaking to someone about Aaron Ramsey's body language after the interview, funnily enough, because I think he's almost got Ramsey, because obviously he's so famous, especially in Wales, and he's done so many of these interviews. He's almost quite celebrity-esque when you interview him. What I mean by that is a lot of players, they're probably still pretty down to earth, and not that Ramsey's not.
Josh, you've gone silent. I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, can you hear Derek?
Can you hear me?
Is this me?
Hear it? Either of us?
No, sorry, it's Matt. I think it's me.
Okay.
For some reason, suddenly, Siri came up on my iMac.
Okay,
so it's probably me. Sorry, apologies.
That's fine. Sorry. So yeah, I was saying that, not to say that Ramsey's not down to earth, but I think he's probably just so used to these interviews, and he's done millions of them. I don't think he gives much away at all. He's very kind of generic, even the way he says at the interview, says hello to everyone. And it's not impersonal. I think that would be unfair, but it's obviously just, when you've done that many interviews, I don't think you don't really care about them. Probably it's just very much the duty. He did say that everything would be addressed in the summer, and I think what I would say to the question is, for me, it's not as if Ramsey's not bought in at all to the project. I asked him about the atmosphere and if it exceeded expectation, and I think that was when he speaks about that, and you'll see that in the video. He was quite open and saying, when you see the stand shaking and all these things, he was evidently pretty impressed by that. I think injury has derailed him as it has for a lot of elements of his career. So I don't think at all it's a case of, I think he's very much checked in. I think it's just been unfortunate with injury. I think there'd probably be interest for him to stay, but, can Rangers afford his wages compared to what he's on? Obviously not. So I think it would take a bit of a big shift to make that happen. And then obviously you're thinking, well, are you going to build the team around him next season? I mean, I don't think it'd be a wise move personally. That said, I think it's excellent to have him back at this stage, because if you need a goal in the final, especially if Rangers play without a recognised striker, which I think they will, to have someone like Ramsey to come on when the game's a little bit more tired, I think will be a pretty valuable option. And he's got a really good cup record. I know we're not thinking at all about the Scottish Cup, but if you looked ahead to these two finals, Ramsey scored in, I think, 2 FA Cup finals. So I think it is important to have. It could be a good added factor come Wednesday. But I personally don't see him coming back to the club in the summer. But I don't think that's due to a lack of interest from him or anything of the sort. I just think it'll be a very different situation to do the deal in the summer as it would have been in January. Yeah,
listen, if you're on 400k a week, which is what Aaron Ramsey is reportedly on, according to the BBC, at Juventus, the truth is you're going to be looking to try and recoup as much of that as you can in your next contract. Now, the Rangers deal that he's on at the moment, that's not an issue because he's still got time left at Juventus. he's got another year at the Italian club come the end. So I think you'd be mad if you're Aaron Ramsey to walk away from that deal, because no, he's out of contract. Sorry, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's out of contract, and you've
he's
also
out,
got
actually.
to think
Sorry,
of where else is he going to go? You know,
Yeah.
how much is another club going to realistically offer him? Yeah, so there's lots of factors coming into it, and I think he's now 31, going on 32, if I'm right in saying that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the summer, but I don't think he's someone you build the team around next. I don't think you can really build the team around him at the moment, with the amount of games he's been able to play. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see until the summer for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of Frankfurt, Joshua, you've had a little look at them, and you've been speaking to Adam Kahn, who's got a piece up on the website today, a very good piece, very well written, looking at what Frankfurt offer. Now, when will you be putting that out? Will that be going out tomorrow in terms of you and speaking to Adam?
Yeah, so we've had a little bit of a chat about Frankfurt, which will be out tomorrow, and then I'll have a kind of a longer tactical preview, a look at Frankfurt, how Rangers might look to beat them coming out, I think, the day of the game. Frankfurt and Rangers have a lot of similarities. I've not got the numbers in front of me, but the key differences are Frankfurt's counter-attacking numbers, I think, are the highest in certainly the knockout stages of the competition, and their high press shot numbers as well. So, you know, they create chances in a very defined way, like playing against the ball, but they've also not lost a game in the entire competition. So they're a really good team, and I think it's quite a unique situation, Johnny. And we were speaking about this last night. Both teams will go into this game thinking probably the exact same thing. There'll be a real healthy respect for the opponent, given that they've made it this far when they weren't expected to. A respect for the teams they've beaten, but they'll be thinking, both teams, Rangers and Frankfurt, will be thinking, well, we've beaten better teams to get to this point. So if we hit our levels, we'll go and win this game. What I think could just swing it in Rangers' favour is a few things. Firstly, Rangers have been, again, I've not got the exact numbers in front of me, but they'll be in the piece. Rangers haven't conceded many counter-attacking shots at all, and I think that's for two reasons. One, I think the structure of the team, with Ryan Jack really covering in for James Tavernier, but also Borna Barisic not always, he joins the attack instead of always sitting in high areas, which means that if possession turns over, he's in quite a good position to pick up second balls. You've also got the recovery pace of the likes of Bassey and Goldson. So although that's a real strength for Frankfurt, it's not necessarily a weakness for Rangers. Frankfurt have also been pretty weak from set pieces at both ends of the pitch, and Rangers stereotypically and numerically are pretty strong in that area. And I think if you look at the ways that Rangers have won games, Frankfurt, both teams have averaged about 42, 44% possession over the course of the knockout stages. I think Rangers haven't watched both the Frankfurt games and obviously the Rangers games. I think Rangers have shown a little bit more when they've been in control of games. So it'll be interesting because I kind of think whoever has less of the ball might win the game. But I think Frankfurt are maybe more reliant on their counter-attacking than Rangers, and certainly their attacking radar, which will be out on the website on Wednesday morning, will back that up. So it's going to be really interesting. They have really good players, but that and as well as that, Johnny, I think that's probably the reason you won't see Kemar Roof start, because it's going to be such a collective effort. I don't think you can start someone that's half fit.
Josh, your mic is kind of going in and out a little bit. It's a bit odd. I don't know if it's a connection issue or we'll have to look at that. Started off perfectly well, but it was just kind of dropping level a little bit. As you're speaking, it's like maybe there's a loose connection. Derek, got a question here from Billy McCulloch. Guys, what temperature do you reckon it will be at kickoff? Now, we touched on this last night, but there'll be a lot of people who didn't catch up with us in the evening show that we did. So can you talk us a little bit through what it was like last night? You had some interesting points to make.
Well, it's at this moment in time, Billy, it's melting. It's so warm, it's unreal. But of course, come kickoff time, it's going to be a lot cooler. Last night, I looked at my phone at the time, and the second half would have been kicking off on Wednesday, and it was pretty mild. It was pretty chilly, to be honest. I was just out in a t-shirt, and I was a bit chilly. So ideal conditions for the players. I think it's going to be a bit. It's going to be a bit clammy, I think, come kickoff, Johnny. But the second half, it should be. The conditions won't be anywhere near what they're like this morning or in the afternoon, where it's touching on 35, 36 degrees. So I don't think it should be too much of an issue come kick-off, which is, of course, 9 o'clock in the evening here over in Spain. So by that point, I mean, it should be cool enough, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was interesting, just seeing you sort of slightly shivering last night while you ate your salted prawns and sunk your beers. You looked really uncomfortable, Derek, right enough.
The things we do for the job, Johnny.
Clearly a good climate for a couple of beers. A few people coming back on the Aaron Ramsey thing. People saying you'll go to Inter Miami, which probably not a bad shout, probably the kind of club. Some Sonny Boy saying that you'll stay with Rangers. Peter Lawrence saying, sadly, I think he may be on the verge of retirement. He looks frustrated and deflated at times, even on the pitch. I don't agree with that, Peter. I've got to be honest. I think he's been pretty good. I thought against Hearts, he was excellent at times. Josh, what's your take on that?
I mean, if my mic's a bit low, let me know and I'll just steal down.
No, you're fixed now.
My technician to my right is sorted, I think.
Yeah.
I think you look at, maybe Peter's referring to the semi-final when he comes off and he's, pretty tearful against Celtic in the semi-final. And I think you could see there he was pretty gutted. But I agree with you. I think in recent games, even the Dundee United home game where he creates that penalty, Johnny kind of orchestrates the move after running over the top, chipping the ball into Sakala. You can see his quality. I think you can also see that he's not quite got the pace just over the first couple of yards, which kind of maybe takes away a little bit of what he can do with the ball because he's not able to outsource people one-on-one as he maybe used to be. But I thought him and Lowry were actually really good at the weekend. Obviously, it's a game that we've not dissected much because it was like the previous 2 league games. No one really cares. Everyone was thinking about this Wednesday. But football can change so quickly, can't it? And if Aaron Ramsey was to go and score a goal from the bench on Wednesday, which is entirely probable, whoever was to do it, I'm sure would be welcome to on a 10-year contract, even if they weren't able to play that much, such as the impact of this game. So it's really good that he's back in contention. The Roof one will be interesting because Van Bronckhorst, I don't think he's the type of manager who really plays mind games or will not reveal information. I think he's pretty straight to the point. I asked him on Wednesday after the Ross County game, and he said it was kind of day to day. He was asked again on Thursday, and he said that he said he admired his dedication to getting back, which I think shows you the extent to which Roof is going to try and make this game. But again, it was very much, I don't know if he'll trying to get him back on the pitch. I imagine that means training this weekend with a view to Wednesday. So not an ideal situation. But again, I just have this feeling that actually it's not individuals that have got Rangers to this point. Kemar Roof was excellent against Braga, but this isn't going to be a home game like that game against Braga when Rangers' expected goals was nearly 6. It was ridiculous. This is going to be far more of a game like a Dortmund or a Leipzig where it's end to end, and Kemar Roof I think is so good at finding space in the box, making those little runs. You see that for the goal against Braga when Rangers have really pinned them in. I think when there's a bit more space opened up, the likes of Tavernier, Kent, even Aribo, and as we've seen in the last game, Kamara, far more viable goal threats. So it's a funny situation. You can go into a fight without a recognised striker and it not be the worst thing in the world. But you look around world football and it's kind of going that way anyway. You look at Liverpool with Mane at the weekend. Havertz has played that way often for Chelsea. So following a trend maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian Fisher asking, will Hadji play on Wednesday? Obviously, there's been a lot of rumour and conjecture about Hadji based on some Instagram posts that have gone up. Clearly, he's getting back to fitness now. However, he is not registered in the European squad anymore, so he would not be able to play even if he was fit. And let's be honest, I don't think you're going to throw Hadji back as your first game into a Europa League final. That would be a little bit of a gamble, to say the least, as good a player as he undoubtedly is. And great news that he's back and potentially ready, because there was a lot of talk that actually, when that injury first happened, people said he'll be back next season. Everyone thought it meant for pre-season. Then later it emerged that it might be kind of August before he's properly back. So this means it looks like he's going to be back ready for pre-season, which is great news for next year. Undoubtedly, one of the main problems Rangers have is breaking down the low block. We've seen it time and again. Yanis Hadji is a guy who is a number monster, should I say. He will pick those numbers up and he will help in those type of games. We've also got a question here from Ali Quinn. Derek, this is one for you. We've got some great prospects in the academy. Cole McKinnon, Alex Lowry, Leon King, Devine, all have a great chance of becoming top players for our club. What do you make of this? Because, Derek, the thing that stands out for me is all of a sudden Rangers is beginning to look a bit like a factory of quality young players. Now, I'm going to go on a bit of one here, but the thing about youth development, I think, is always missed by people and talking about Scottish football, whether that be journalists, pundits, fans, is that a youth department doesn't just come on. The work that you do 10 years previously is seen 10 years later. So all these players that are coming through, this is on the back of what was done, actually probably, maybe not as far ago as 10 years, but certainly 2005, 2006, a lot of the stuff that was done by people like Mark Warburton when he came in and helped change the setup around the academy, the club started to put a little bit more money in. And certainly in terms of the style of play, you're starting to see players who are extremely comfortable on the ball. You look at Leon King playing from centre-back to left-back. He's right-footed and he's comfortable at left-back. You have Billy Gilmore. You have Nathan Patterson. Technically, these players are just on a different level from a lot of the youngsters that have come through in the past. They're like foreign players almost in the way they hold the ball and the comfort with the ball. And of course, the most obvious one regarding that is Alex Lowry, who I've already said reminds me of Barry Ferguson, because the one Rangers youth of my generation that came through that looked like a player from Serie A was Barry Ferguson in terms of the way he handled the ball. They're all like that now. Not maybe quite to the level of Barry Ferguson, but they can all take it in tight situations and move it quickly. So this is a youth system that is starting to bear real fruit. And I wonder, Derek, if part of that is the B team playing in men's football, so that when they come in to play Hearts at Tynecastle, it's water for ducks back. They've already been doing it. Yes, it's a new level. Yes, it's a step up. But are we already seeing, in terms of their performance against Hearts, the benefits of B-team football?
I was just going to, you took the words right in my mouth there, Johnny. I was going to say the exact same thing. Not only they played in the Lowland League, but the European youth games that they play in as well, yep. Of course. They played, what was it, Seville actually earlier on in the season, yes, at Dumbarton. These sort of games, you can't help but learn taking part in these sort of games. And we've seen it at Tynecastle where, and credit has to go to Giovanni van Bronckhorst as well, because he isn't afraid to play a young boy. He said it in press conferences before. He got a chance when he was a young boy at Feyenoord, and he's happy to give youngsters a chance in the first team, as we've seen at Tynecastle. We talked about last night about the goals. Alex Lowry's goal was first class, of course, but Cole McKinnon's was a beauty as well. Just a fantastic technique and calmness to strike the ball into the corner of the net. But not only that, the boy Devine at right back, they all look. And I think the fact that Rangers play the same system in the B team and the younger ages, Johnny, I think that helps. So the players, when they come into the first team, they're not like a fish out of water. They know the way the team plays, and it bodes well for the future, of course. I would have no qualms whatsoever if that team that played at Tynecastle took to the field at Hampden on Saturday. Such was the level of the performance. But as I mentioned, it really bodes well for the future. And I seen a comment coming in saying, is it the class of 22? It really feels like that, because there's so many young players, and not just players coming through just for the sake of it. They're real quality as well, and it's going to be a challenge for Rangers to keep a hold of these youngsters. Of course, we've seen Nathan Patterson go down south, but these young boys will look at Patterson as sort of a shining light, if you like. And if you do well for Rangers, then the pathway is there. Get in the first team, and then you could go down south and play for an Everton or what have you. So it's fantastic to see, and a good few of them, of course, will be on the bench for the final. I've seen a comment coming in saying they would have no qualms about playing Lowry in the final. I'm not too sure Giovanni van Bronckhorst is going to go with that, but again, I wouldn't be surprised to see him such as his talent. I agree with you, Johnny. I think he's something special. Great to see him signing that new deal, and whether he sees it out is another thing, because if he keeps on this upward trajectory, then there's going to be a lot of big clubs want to prize him away. Yeah,
here's one from Scott D. Joshua for you. A lot of paper talk saying that Steven Gerrard is after Calvin Bassey. That's been reported down south. That'd be a huge loss, obviously. I'm aware that there are a number of Premier League clubs who have watched Calvin Bassey, and I don't think that interest is going away anytime soon. For me, he's an absolute standout and an obvious target for a Premier League club on the basis that he is a homegrown player and he's physically so strong and he's got incredible pace. That's the first two things you need to play in the Premier League: power and pace. He's got both in abundance. Would you be concerned, given he's got 2 years left on his contract at the end of this season, Josh, that if someone comes in with a big bid, that Bassey might be one of the players that would be let go, given he's so important to this man-for-man system in terms of the defending that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has set up? It's his power that kind of sets the agenda, his ability 1v1.
Yeah, well, he's become such an important player, but now Rangers are going to have to kind of pay him. The pay is going to have to reflect that, because obviously he's on the contract that was signed when he came into the club. That we don't know what that is, but it certainly won't be, I'd imagine, reflective of his position and his influence in the team now.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you. Obviously, you need, I think, just to play at the top level of football now, it's so transitional, it's so quick that it's a non-negotiable that you need those attributes, really, especially, I think, for maybe a player that plays in a particular team. I don't know if where teams view him. I'd imagine that teams now in the Premier League are probably viewing Bassey as a centre-back, as you say, because he can be so aggressive and step into midfield. I don't know. I mean, this is obviously one for next season, but the man marking's worked brilliantly. I do think you'll start to see it become a little bit more exploited as games wear on and teams get a little bit more used to it. And it's obviously also got, I think, the potential to really blow up in your face, but it's got Rangers to this point. So I guess that's a discussion for a later day. I think you need to have, for me, Bassey needs to now just be one of Rangers centre-backs. I can't remember, obviously after the initial time he played at centre-back, I think it was 13 games before the winter break, he had a little bit of a drop-off at one point, and I think it was easy then to say, he should be a left-back, but yeah, it's an interesting one, because what do you do in that position in the summer? Do you leave Borna Barisic there for another full season as first choice left back? It's tempting to say yes now, but his form comes and goes, as his song says, that there's I don't know if you want to do that, but then you probably don't want to shift Bassey out there that often. I don't know, but I think the first and most important thing for Rangers is they pay him like an important member of the squad, because he's absolutely earned that and hardly put a foot wrong and grown so much. I was watching back the Lyon game, highlights of the Lyon game, the 1-1 draw, which was in when was that? December, I think it was Van Bronckhorst. The last game of the group stage, and you'll remember that Bassey, he scored an own goal in that game, and then he also almost scored an identical own goal against Hearts the following weekend or the weekend before, where he's at the front post and he reacts. And it's one of those mistakes that you probably don't really, until you think that's a player who's adapting to a new position, he's probably used to trying to make those interceptions at left back instead of right in front of the goal. And I just think you look at his development over this, it's not even a year, it's a 6-month period, and he's been so impressive. So you need to get him tied down in a long-term contract in the summer. Absolutely. He's one of the players, along with Lundstrom, that I think you want to build this kind of next cohort around.
Yeah. Those two they've been absolutely pivotal at this European run. And I remember, and Craig Vickers has got an excellent piece about it today, about the 6 games that he feels were major stepping stones as part of the evolution of the team to get to this stage. Obviously, this is going back to Gerrard's first season, but he feels like if they hadn't won these games, or these games, something happened in these games that had major ramifications. And he feels the Slavia Prague game was incredibly important in terms of bringing in the kind of physicality to the team through Gerrard. They went out and signed Lundstrom, who's obviously been absolutely essential. The promotion of Bassey into the team has given it that kind of strong, rigid core that just wasn't there without those two. And I thought that was a really interesting point. And absolutely,
Johnny, see, just on that, I think if you think of the two players that I can't remember if Helander and Davis played against Slavia, but let's say they're the two players that would have played probably in place of those two players last season, were excellent in that 4-3-3, but they were very protected in that as well. Helander can't do the same things that Bassey can do because he's a different player. That's fine. It's suited to a different style. And Dave is obviously now at 37. I don't think, and I think this is, as I've said before, one of the reasons you've not seen him play that much you don't want them isolated in kind of physical duels and all over the pitch when there's lots of space around them. Gerrard's football was all about condensing the space around the ball. So I think that charts the evolution of the team really nicely. And, it's also mad because if you'd said this time last year or just a month when Rangers had been knocked out the Europa League that, the team, a relatively similar team with Calvin Bassey at centre-back and an aggressive man-marking system that went 3v3 at the back against RB Leipzig, who, beat Man City earlier in the season, would go and reach the Europa League final. It's an incredible achievement, and I think maybe only kind of in the summer when we're reflecting on this run, we'll realise how impressive it is, because certainly it's only just starting to hit, I think, a lot of people now that Rangers are actually at the final stage, just how kind of remarkable a journey this is through the European stages the last 4 years.
Yeah, okay. We've got loads of people still on. We're going to stay on for a little bit longer than usual today. We're going to get another few questions in. But before I do that, I just want to remind you about our stunning offer on our website, therangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. We want you to go on there and subscribe, and we are giving you an unbelievable offer to do that at the moment. It's £6. You pay it up front. That's you done for the next 6 months. Not another thing will come out your bank account. So all that content is effectively that's you done and dusted and paid for. That covers you all the transfer stuff in pre-season, all the build up to next year, early games in Europe if there are any. If there's not, and we certainly hope there's not, it'll be a European Super Cup, which the boys will be desperate to get to Helsinki for. They're already talking about where we're going to book. I think Derek's already booked a hotel. Is that right, Derek?
The Airbnb's booked already, Johnny. I think it's a good omen. I can't remember if I booked this Airbnb before the Leipzig second leg. I think I did. So it's a good omen. So Liverpool or Real Madrid, we're coming for you.
Yes, indeed. So we've got that potentially on the horizon, and all the games in the Scottish Premiership and in the Champions League, hopefully, as well, up to November. Now, that's your £6. On top of that, for your £6, we are giving away 2 tickets to 1 subscriber for the game. So you cannot say fairer than that. We know these tickets are absolute gold dust, but one of our subscribers will be heading to that game with 2 tickets for them and a pal. There is no doubt about that. That draw is taking place tomorrow at 9 a.m. so we can get in touch with the person immediately and allow them to get on the app and get their tickets ready and sorted, and they will be going to the big one. I mean, you can't say that is not an unbelievable deal. £6 for 6 months, plus a chance to win 2 tickets. Guys, pop onto the website and get that sorted. Derek will maybe put the subscribe link into the comments if he could. But anyway, we're going to move on to more questions. Like I say, we'd love you to go and do that and support us. This one, guys, I think is important. It's Sonny Boy saying, we'd love to know how much of an influence Dave Voss has. Seems to take a back seat in a lot of things, but I assume he's a tactician. I don't actually think so, Sonny Boy. I think Dave Voss is a young coach. I've spoken to a few people at Rangers about this. He's a young coach. This is the first time that he's had a job at a high level on a first team. I think the tactician is Giovanni van Bronckhorst. The brains is Giovanni van Bronckhorst. I think Josh and Derek will be able to testify that when it comes to on the match, he's the guy that's out there on the edge of the technical area, pointing out things, pulling players around. And actually, that's his strength. That's his major strength. It's slightly different to the setup. And I think people have got used to the idea of there's Steven Gerrard as the face of it, and then there's Michael Beale that's the brains of it. And I don't think that's quite the same under Giovanni van Bronckhorst. Which of you wants to come in on that?
I think that, obviously it's Gerrard spoke about that a lot, didn't he? He gave that interview where he spoke about it would take him 20 years to be as good an on-pitch coach as Michael Beale. But what you've got in this situation now is the manager, Steven Gerrard, this was his first job. Michael Beale has been a coach for 20 years. Now you've got Giovanni van Bronckhorst, and this is his second job after he's had 4 years in a high-pressure job and a bit of a sabbatical, and then worked with the City Group. And then you've got Dave Voss, who's at the start of his career. So it's kind of a different situation. And obviously we don't really know because we only knew that information about Beale really through Gerrard and obviously other people that would have been around the training centre and known his influence on things. But certainly I think what you've got with Van Bronckhorst is a manager that's at a little bit of a different stage to Gerrard. For me, I think if you look in, again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but you look at the way that Van Bronckhorst impacts things in game, and Gerrard was reluctant to do that, but maybe he just hadn't developed that ability to do so because he wasn't an experienced manager. That's not criticism whatsoever. This was his first job, and Rangers wouldn't be at this stage for me without Steven Gerrard. But you obviously need to develop those traits at some point. And I think what you would say with Van Bronckhorst, there was some criticism that we all heard about when he first got the job at Rangers from people around Feyenoord that said he does the same thing. As football's predictable, it's slow, and there's been games where it's not been great. But I think over the course of this 36-7 games, you couldn't say it's the same. You couldn't say it's predictable. I think it's the unpredictability. And I asked Van Bronckhorst about this on sometime last week, some press conference that's merged into one. And he was speaking about that at this level of football, you need to do different things so the opposition don't predict what you're doing. And I was also listening to a video that was on the Arsenal Twitter page with Mikel Arteta, obviously formerly of this parish, and he was speaking about that as well. How he was saying when the other team's warming up before a game, we'll have designated people watching them, so we know what they're going to do. If there's any patterns of play, if there's a different shape, if they're lining up in a back five instead of a back four. And I just think that Gerrard was maybe still to develop that in his managerial style. And you've seen him go to a back three a couple of times in England, which I find really interesting. But I think that unpredictability is so important, as we've discussed numerous times, Shawnee, because hypothetically, if Frankfurt are playing a Rangers team that always did the same thing, they would know roughly what they're going to do with the final. But if you're playing Rangers in the final as they are on Wednesday, yes, you know roughly what they're going to do, but there could be a lot of variables. How are they going to get the ball up the pitch? Because I don't think many people from the Leipzig camp would have expected Glenn Kamara to be the kind of makeshift target man for a second in that home leg. And although that's a small detail that gets Ryan Kent in a position to run 1v1, get Rangers over the top of the press. So I think that variability is really important, and that shows for me that Van Bronckhorst is just naturally, as he is in a literal time sense, a few years ahead of probably the curve in terms of experience of Gerrard, and that shows.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of this game, Derek, I know I'm jumping all over the place because we're getting so many questions and I want to get through as many of them as I can. We've got 550 people on live, so I want to try and make sure everyone's getting a voice. Michael Sharon's come in and said, Sonny boy, I was not confident in Manchester. This time I think it's there for us if we turn up. Now he's referring to one of the other commenters in the comments there. But I think that's actually a really good point, Derek, and maybe you can speak to that because you were there in Manchester in 2008. You're not a young pup like Josh who was basically rattling about his kindergarten or whatever at that time, his nursery, sounding like an American here. You can recall that quite well, and certainly, obviously, I can too. It was such a different feeling in Manchester. It really just did feel like Manchester was a thing. It wasn't really about the game. Zenit were so good at that time. They really were miles ahead. I mean, they tore Bayern Munich apart. I think it was 4-0 in the second leg. And that was a decent Bayern Munich type team. And I just felt that Rangers really, really had no chance in that game. What's your reflection looking back at the event and how we felt? And I notice a lot of Rangers fans are starting to say that about Manchester now, that it was more in hope than expectation.
Yeah, and they played so many games as well, John, in such a short space of time. Remember, and they get no help from the governing body in terms of getting a rest or what have you. So that took its toll. Daniel Kuzan was suspended for the final, which was a huge blow, I remember, at the time. And you were going in there, like you said, more in hope than expectation. You're actually hoping for penalties like the Fiorentina semi. When it went to half-time, it was 0-0. You're thinking, brilliant. You're just trying to chop the game down in stages. When the first goal went in, was it Denisov or some? I can't remember his name, but
yes, I think Denisov got the second, didn't he? Anyway, we'll find out. I'll find out.
Yeah, but when that went in, you knew it was done. And I know, was it Novo fired over late on, or was it Boyd that fired over late on? It was an absolutely glorious chance to equalise, but even still, they were dead on their feet, and you couldn't help but feel pride for the team for getting that far. They punched above their weight. They get absolutely battered by the likes of Werder Bremen and Fiorentina. but defensively they were magnificent, and they just came up against a team that were just a level above it in Zenit on that day. But this Rangers team are outperforming every team in the competition, Johnny. They deserve to be there, and they're there on merit. It's a different animal, as I've seen someone mentioned in the comments. And it's enjoyable to watch. When you're watching Rangers in that 2008 run, it was not enjoyable. You're having heart palpitations throughout the course of the entire game. But this team is something else. It's a real joy to watch, and that gives you so much belief heading into this game.
Yeah, I'm going to say one thing about Zenit, and I'd ask you not to respond because I'm going to be very careful what I'm going to say. But they looked very fit.
Yes.
And I suspect, and I suggest, if anyone's not really sure about what I might be referring to, they catch up with the film Icarus on Netflix, which details some interesting things of what was going on in Russian sport at the time. But then it looked superhumanly fit.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say about that. So, not to cast any aspersions, but
yeah.
Right. Great point here from John Beck, Joshua. This season, it wasn't to be with the cinch row, the rearranged fixtures, the loss of Hadji Roof Helander, Gerard Morelos, Chuckin playing 60-plus games. He's not even mentioned the Australia friendly. I mean, by God, what a season this has been. See, when you see it like that, and you see Hadji Roof Helander, Gerard and Morelos, I mean, injuries, Ramsey coming in and out, you know, it's what a season it's been.
Yeah, and as we've said before, you know, the board last season banked on continuity to get them the Champions League, whether that be through the 25-point margin in the league last season. I'm sure they thought they would win the league this year, or by getting the Champions League last summer. Roof and Hadji, 34 goals and assists between them last season. I don't know what the updated number is at the moment for this season in the league, but well below that, at least half of that. Alan McGregor's kind of statistical downturn in form. Obviously, the manager leaves, and then you've got to adapt. We thought Van Bronckhorst football would be very similar, and it's got similarities, but there's a lot of differences as well. And also Johnny Chuckin, like you remember the 2-1 defeat to Celtic in the Old Firm, and what was that, the very start of April? And you think, just like the kind of title-winning season when Rangers should really have done much better in the cup competitions, you think there was a real potential for something special here, but this team haven't delivered. And I just think that goal, that recovery in game against Braga was so important, and I think aided by Van Bronckhorst's work at the time. He spoke about finding solutions and not just effectively chucking in crosses when Rangers are behind in a game. I think that was so important to allow that team to overcome that final hurdle. And, the narrative at the start of the season was unbelievably, when you think about it now, this team struggle with expectations, they struggle with a crowd, a narrative that I think was completely wrong. You look at them now and you look at those home games against Dortmund and Leipzig, the ability to kind of rise to the favourites tag against Red Star and Braga. There can be no questions about their mentality whatsoever. And I think you have to obviously be realistic about the league, and Celtic were more consistent over the course of it. You look at weekends like the 3-3 draw with Ross County when Celtic scored a late goal against Dundee United, and that's the fine margins that obviously dictates the league season. But it's been remarkable, and I think if this team do go and win the Europa League, it will be hard to try and categorise it in terms of great sporting achievements, because even when I've been speaking to non-footballing friends, trying to describe just how a big an achievement this would be if Rangers were to go and win it, it's hard to put into words. You think, how much did Rangers spend last summer? Anything like $1 million, if that. Leipzig spent £100 million. You look at Dortmund, and it's just to be at this stage of the competition, especially when Rangers had to go through all 4 qualifying rounds 3 years in a row, the season prior to this season, to even get to this stage. Absolutely remarkable, and it would just it would make a good movie, wouldn't it? It would make a very good movie.
Yeah, it would indeed. Now, we've got a comment from CGM55 here, a regular commenter and friend of the pod. He's saying, am I right in saying we have lost 5 games in this competition? It's Ibrox that has got us this far, which is slightly worrying. Now, I think the 5 games might be including Malmo. Tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe it is 5 in this competition.
Sparta away, Leon
away,
Red Star.
Leon home, sorry, yeah.
Red Star and Leipzig and Braga, 5. Yeah, he's right.
Okay, yeah. And then the two in Malmo, we make it 7.
7 with Malmo? 6 with Malmo?
7
Did we
with
lose
Malmo.
both ties against Malmo?
Yes,
I
lost
can't remember.
2-1 and 2-1.
Yeah, 7
it's been such a long season. But yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. And he's saying it's Ibrox that has got us this far, which is slightly worrying. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up and popping it up is because in Adam Cahn's piece, I've already plugged it today, but guys, I know a lot of you are going to be subscribers, so go on and have a look at that. It is really good. He's talking about Eintracht Frankfurt being a team that is pushed forward by their fans, by their incredible fans. And he's saying that in the piece that the one thing about Rangers and Frankfurt is they kind of equalise each other in a sense that they're both huge, vociferous fan bases. Whereas if it had been, for example, Frankfurt versus Porto or Rangers versus Porto, you'd had a much bigger Frankfurt or Rangers contingent in the stadium, but they will be equally vociferous. So he's saying it'll be really interesting to see who's got a bigger footprint in the stadium out of the two sets of fans, because he said that could be vital because both teams do much better at home than they do away. So I think that
Johnny. I mean, Frankfurt went to the Nou Camp and won, went to the London Stadium and won, so they know how to win on the road. But this is a one-off game, and like you say, I think it's going to be pretty much an even split in terms of supporters in the ground. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. What that's going to feel like. Certainly, the games I've been at on the road so far, Leipzig and Braga, they don't really necessarily have a great following, whereas Frankfurt do. So even things like in the city, where I'm going to go for a wander shortly, it'll be interesting to see how many Frankfurt fans are wandering about and what have you. So it's going to be.
Might even be able to stop and have a chat with some of them, Derek. Maybe get some
perhaps, yeah. Why not?
Content for us. See what the fans are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll bring that to you. See how they're thinking about it ahead of this game. But yeah, as Joshua mentioned earlier on, I mean, it's two clubs that will fancy their chances in this final, and it's great to see two historic clubs as well. Johnny's two big clubs, well supported in this final. Just a pity, of course, that they've picked the smallest ground in the city of the three to stage the final, which is a bit bizarre. But there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Right, guys, that's us been on 47 minutes. We've given you a really good sense, I think, of where we're at the moment. We've got loads of stuff to get on with, and we'll be back on later on in the day. 6 p.m. we will be back. That's 7 p.m. these blokes' times. We'll be having a chat live out on the terrace. Couple of beers, very relaxed. Come back on, get your questions in, and we will see you then. Now, of course, I just reiterate again, subscription on the website, £6 for 6 months coverage, plus the chance to win 2 tickets to the stadium in Seville to watch the game. It is incredible. Joshua, you look like you've got something to say, or are you just holding that mic up for?
No, I'm just listening intently. I was just saying to Derek what time I wanted to distinguish a time, but 7 o'clock our time, that's fine. We will be here. Hopefully the building work has stopped by then and we can do it outside. I think it should have.
We'll have guests as well, special guests. We're hoping to bring on different voices, so that'll be good. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, guys. Right. Until next time, guys, or until later on, you won't hear from me. I'll be back tomorrow morning, but these guys will take over in Seville. It's going to be, as I say, 6 p.m. our time, 7 p.m. Eastern European time, or whatever they call it. And until then, thanks for watching.